After all the complaining we did in that first half during our watch along on Thursday, boy, were we treated to a great second half as Team USA, led by Steph Curry, LeBron James, and yes, your one Captain America, one Joel Embiid, found a way to come back and defeat Serbia at the end of the game and advance to the gold medal game. We're here to talk about Captain America himself, see how you all feel about his performance, talk about a few other things with Kevin Durant, so many others here on this show on PHLY Sixers podcast with Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck. I'm Devon Givens. Bree has the day off, so we welcome in Tyler Zulli, stepping in, carrying a heavy load today on the PHLY family with all the shows. We appreciate Tyler sticking around with us. But, man, fellas, we talked about this yesterday during the game. We all did say at the very end that we thought that they could come back, win the game, that they did. But
I will say they made me doubt it more than I was expecting to, though. They really, really waited.
They really did. And they really did. They took it down to the very end. Joel Embiid had a phenomenal performance. This is where we're going to start. I get into his play overall. Steph Curry with 30-plus points in the game. Some big shots down the stretch from LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and, yes, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid had a stretch there, Derek, where he scored 7 consecutive points for Team USA. Had a great block on the other end as well as one of the guards tried to get to the rim, and he sent that out of bounds into the seats. And just had some really good defensive plays overall. And as we get things started here, he's playing for the gold medal game. This is a meaningful game, of course, for him in the performance. As Kyle was relaying it yesterday, it was basically his Eastern Conference Finals. He had never been to that level of that basketball, and he showed up. And he showed up in a big way. He had some tough spots where he dribbled the ball off his foot late in the game, to your point, and people were complaining about that.
Which, according to NBA Twitter, he is the only one to make bad turnovers. None of 100%. The other sloppiness you saw, none of that happened.
100%. So with it all, man, really good performance for him. He needed that performance in that big spot, and now they're getting ready for the gold medal game.
He did. And it's fantastic because, quite frankly, without him, they don't win that game. And it's not even close. Like, he was the only real option they had that made Jokic's life somewhat difficult. He had a lot of success scoring on Jokic. In fact, all of his points came against Jokic. And when they were, needed a huge boost, he was right there to give it to him. He was very active defensively. He was set some incredible screens, some glorious screens for Curry. He was big in every facet of the game. And look, we have been critical at times, but I think it's always been fair. A lot of the discourse around him has not been fair and has been ridiculous. And so for him to step up, it's great in part for the discourse and for Sixers fans watching this. And you can tell a lot of people to shut up, and that's great. I love telling people to shut up. But it's really, really great because they
would
not
as much as I do, Derek. You don't love it.
No, not as much. And certainly not as vocally. But it's great because without him, they're not in that gold medal game. And like I've been saying, and I know this is a controversial take with some Americans right now, I am still rooting for Team USA. Even though the Sixers do it, there are 2 former Sixers playing for Team France. I am not going to the Nico Batum or the Matthias Lesort bandwagon. I am still going to sit with my country and root for Team USA. They would not be playing for a gold medal without him at all.
God bless America. I was going to start singing one of those songs to open the podcast today. I mean, I agree with that last sentiment, obviously, Derek, on, like, for example, if Joel Embiid was playing for Cameroon, or even if he was playing for France and he was on the other side of this gold medal game tomorrow, I think us all having, different levels of personal relationships with Joel would be like, we want him to succeed on some sort of individual level.
And you would root for Cameroon up until they played
the
against
second you
are
standing across from these colors don't run, brother. I hope Team USA wins by 75 points, and you have to go home with your tail between your legs. No, but to echo, Derek, what you were saying, obviously we were locked in on that game, at least once Derek was done with his shot frustration. And
Joel had a great game, but there was somebody else who had a better day of basketball than him. I won't mention it because the effer broke my PHLY leaderboard, but you had a good day.
Someone on the show now has 103 points scored on Papa Shot. I'll let you guess who it is. So a couple of things jumped out at me about Joel's performance yesterday. I talked some early in the game on our stream yesterday about he has finally caught up to, seeing the passion from these guys from other countries specifically about representing, whether it's Puerto Rico, South Sudan, Serbia, France, all these teams throughout the tournament. You can see how much it means to them. And it wasn't as clear for Joel. Like, I know he was excited for the opportunity, but the switch was not on yet. And I know that there's been some discussion last couple of days. Grant Hill was finally like, yeah, Joel was so sick he had to travel separately from the team. And it's like, it would have been nice to get that information before, Sam Mitchell said, hey, I went to ROTC school. Joel's a disgrace to America type of thing. Would have been nice to preempt that a little bit. But yesterday, I think you saw the fire that everyone wanted to see from Joel, especially in this type of game, this type of environment, right? Because I think one thing that has stood out about Joel and some of his bad performances in the playoffs, and this is true of other guys who've had their struggles on that type of level, is that you get the deer in the headlights moment sometimes. And late in those games, he's shying away. He's not, I don't see Joel trash talking. I don't see the same, edge that we might see earlier in games or maybe even in the regular season. And so when I saw him, that turnover that Jokic had, where I don't remember if they called it a foul or a travel, where Joel came
travel
and was screaming, was fired up to get that stop. That was, to me, the biggest tell of like, he is ready. Like this, he's here to seize this moment. And then to see with, the game was still in reach, but certainly far from a gimme for them. For Joel to score, I think it was 7 straight points for Team USA. Not just score 7 straight, but to command the offense there. Like I talked a lot coming into the tournament when we were out in Vegas saying, I want to see who these guys turn to. I want to see how they run things for this team down the stretch. And LeBron, Curry, Durant were the big guys in the final few minutes. But Joel is the guy who got them there, right? He was the guy who bridged into, okay, it's closing time. And on top of that, with Steph Curry specifically, Joel was the guy who was screening for him and freeing him up on a lot of those big shots, not just late, but throughout the game. So it was an encapsulation of everything I wanted to see. Joel playing decisively, whether that's putting up shots, moving the ball, setting screens. Joel buying in on both ends of the floor, and Joel giving himself up for this team to get them over the line. It's not the best game he's ever played, right? We've seen him score 70 points. We saw him score 50 points with a paralyzed face and one usable leg against the Knicks in round 1 a few months ago. But if you consider the stakes and you consider everything he showed yesterday, it's one of my favorite games that I've ever seen him play. And I think that's a game that you put that in your memory bank. You went through that. You were the guy who helped pull this team from the brink and now put them in the gold medal game. That I think that was a huge moment for him that I think can carry with it a ton of momentum into next season.
It was the magnitude of the game, the magnitude of the moment for where they were, being down by double digits and looking like they couldn't do anything outside of Curry and Embiid. It was mentioning the gravity of what he was doing and setting those screens for Steph Curry. Devin Booker also hit a late three-pointer that was really big. The fact that even something as small as when Curry did hit that jump shot late that rattled in, that didn't go right through, Embiid was coming up to set a pick for LeBron James, and LeBron waved him off. He waved a couple of people off. And before he waved him off with the hand motion, it was sort of, when we talk about being involved and understanding who you're playing with and getting used to your teammates, there was no hand motion or anything. Maybe he mouthed it. Maybe he did, and we couldn't pick it up on television. But Embiid quickly, instead of setting the screen for LeBron, he pivoted, turned, and then set that critical build-a-wall type screen where Curry got open to rattle in that three-pointer. And that was again without anything needing to be said. But just some of the small stuff, from the block shot that I mentioned a little bit earlier, the pull-up jumper that we were talking about in studio when Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis were in there, and they didn't take advantage of the shot right away at the free throw line extended. And B comes right back in. He knocked that jumper down without any hesitation. It's the layup that we always see with him in the Sixers uniform, with the pick and pop situation with James Harden in the past and now Tyrese Maxey. And then he got the and one. Turn right back around. Defensive play on the other end, got another bucket. And that was the 7 in a row that he had for Team USA. And that allowed the others to then get a little bit more loose and go out there and do what they needed to do, where LeBron is driving to the basket, finishing at the rim. Kevin Durant with a tough, deep jump shot. But again, they had to account for Joel Embiid. And then when we were even talking about the Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo defense, or LeBron on Nikola Jokic, and Kyle, you had screamed out one good play, and then the other 2, you didn't like it, because Embiid was doing a good enough job on Nikola Jokic at that time out there on the floor. So when we were discussing at the very beginning of this, as you just laid out, what number is going to be called, who needs the ball in the clutch spots, where are they going to go? And we all go all the way back to the All-Star game, which that was an exhibition. But when they called that final play and Joel Embiid got the ball and knocked down the jump shot and they help his team win the game, it was like, yo, he's playing with all these guys and they gave him the basketball in this spot. And while he didn't necessarily get the basketball at the end of the game, he got it where he needed to. He rested at the end of the third quarter from Steve Kerr because he wanted to make sure that he had all of those guys with Kevin Durant back out there on the floor. And guess who was out there with them? Joel Embiid, because he was that important both offensively and defensively for what he did to help carry them from that deficit, putting them right back into the game in single digits and ultimately winning it because he was that good out there on the floor. What we've seen in the past, hey, get the ball top of the key. We see he's about to take a jump shot. No, you know what he did? He's seeking out Devin Booker coming off a screen and giving him the basketball and the dribble handoff to get a much better shot. And these are the things that we talk about him learning playing with great players that, as you just laid out there at the very end, Kyle, he can now translate and bring this stuff back to Philadelphia with his teammates. He has never been in the spot like this. The magnitude was huge. And what he did there is going to be huge for right now. They still have a game to play tomorrow and win the gold medal. But also, again, never playing in a spot like this was something so meaningful, so important to him that he is finally, you don't want to get the silver. I get it. But you're finally in the spot here where you're playing for the ultimate goal, the ultimate title of being the best. And he belongs out there, just like we've been saying. And that was evident in that game yesterday for them to come back from that double-digit deficit and win that basketball game.
And to add on to what you're saying there, Devon, I think when you're seeing him, develop that understanding with LeBron or going through a dribble handoff with Devin Booker and like actively looking for that late instead of saying, raising his hand, calling his own number and saying, I'm going to go about this by myself. I think what you've seen from, scrimmage 1 that we were there for against Canada in Vegas, where he's off the pace. And there were more of those moments where Joel's catching the ball at the free throw line extended and jab step, jab step, jab step. And those initial few games, there's a little bit more of that, right? There was less decisiveness and more Joel looking around the floor, seeing what he can do, seeing how he can pick apart the guy in front of him. What stood out yesterday, especially late in that game, was what we always talk about, 0.5 decision-making from Joel, which was either that ball's going up or he's going into a move or the ball's being passed to one of these other very talented teammates that he's playing with. Like he had a dunk in the second half where he blew by Jokic specifically because all he did was catch the ball and go right away. There was no hesitation. There's no looking at maybe I can do this. I'm going to try to foul bait and all that. Like I'm just going right to the rim. And Jokic was caught so off guard that he went uncontested. And Serbia's head coach was mad about it because he thought it was a travel because he went by Jokic so fast. Ended up drawing a tech on him, and they got an extra point out of that in the process. And so I think that is something that has really jumped out at me the last few games. I don't think he's been playing slow since they've gotten to Paris in general. Yeah. I just think yesterday was so pronounced with how quickly he was moving and how quickly he was processing on offense to keep things moving and make sure either he was getting a great shot or somebody else was capable of getting it.
And that, can I add on to that one? I forgot about the one down the middle where he got that dunk because he caught that and he was gone. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he wasn't thinking about his knee. He wasn't thinking about Jokic. He knew exactly what he was doing. As you said, instantly went down that lane for that finish. And yeah, the coach was upset because Team USA was already coming back on the run. They were getting a little tight, and Embiid just did exactly what he did, and he had been doing it at a good rate for that time in the second half that he had been out there on the floor. for that 19 points. So Derek, when you mentioned how, he's the only one that makes sloppy plays with the ball going off his leg, and we're like, oh man, this can't end this way, because now we're going to have to continue to hear this. It didn't, because when it came down to it, he made enough plays and they got to enough spots where, whether it was his shot making, his passing, his screening, his rebounding, that he allowed his teammates also to be to close that one out and get that victory.
I pulled a Devon there. No,
right,
really,
man.
it was the most complete performance he's had overseas. It's the most. I mean, really, the last 2 games he's played pretty well in the Olympics. It was just the opener. I agree with Kyle. Once he got to Paris, he was playing at a much higher level and certainly a much quicker level, both physically. Although there's still some question marks on the movement. I think early on, I do think moving him to a more of a switching scheme in a weird way helped him. I think engaged Joel tends to get you the best version of Joel, but the last 2 games he's been real good. It was definitely a very complete performance.
Let's talk about that defense a little bit more on the other side, because it seems like he's taking that as a challenge when he gets mixed out there. We've seen it in the past, but we've seen it now on this stage. We'll talk about that when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And we got to tell you about some cool things.
First up, we want to tell you about TrueMark Financial, specifically TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa credit card. Earn rewards for each purchase using TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa credit card and redeem them for travel and retail gift cards. Build credit through timely payments and low utilization, and enjoy fraud protection with features like zero liability. We also want to make sure we tell you about savings options at TrueMark Financial. They have a traditional savings account, which is a basic savings account offering a place to deposit funds, earn interest, and withdraw money as needed. There's a money market account, which combines features of savings and checking accounts, offering higher interest rates and limited check writing capabilities, easy access to your money when you need it. And finally, there is a certificate, which is a fixed term deposit account with a predetermined interest rate and maturity date, offering higher interest rates for locking in funds for a specific period. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit truemark.com/PHLY.
And I have to tell you about, as we get ready for this gold medal game on Saturday against France, maybe you're feeling a little spicy now. You feel good about your country and the players on the squad to go out there and get this gold medal. Well, the place for you to go, and for baseball as well, is to our great friends from Bet365, our newest partner. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Has 90 million users worldwide. I'm one of them. Here on my phone, I have the app. Bet365 live streams 780,000 events each year. So early payouts for you across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. Well, a lot of events to go through overall. Everybody's getting excited about the football season. Bet365 will be ready as they pioneer live in-game betting again. And today, the Bet365 offers the widest range of games and market available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. So the baseball team, pretty good series, get up to a nice win last night as well. Go ahead, Bet365 has you covered. And at Bet365, don't do ordinary. Believe in every sport, and they should be epic. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Yes, $5. Use code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and claim your offer. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. NBA early payout offer. Hey, get your straight bets paid out, parlay selections marked as winners when your team goes up by 20 points. So if you feel good about your Philadelphia squad when they come back, they got a gold medal winner on their basketball team. They're playing against Charlotte on a Tuesday night and you're feeling good, Bet365 will have you covered right away with that early payout offer. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up and check out our boost to see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. All right. Kyle, you've been talking about the defense from Embiid, where he's just switching out and he's engaged. We talked about the play the other day where he had 2 switches and then forced a tough shot in the middle of the paint with the guard. And last night, especially in that fourth quarter, yesterday afternoon, in that fourth quarter, we saw a lot of that again. And we'll get to France in just a little bit and talk about who they are, what they are, of course, with Wembanyama, Nico Batum, as you mentioned. But he defensively showing again that it's not just the interior, but he's also locked in, engaged late in game when he gets caught on some of these other guards.
Yeah, look, I think the biggest problem for Team USA down the stretch defensively was that they were getting Joel switched, and then Jokic was getting to attack. Kevin Durant, who's given up a ton of weight, or Steph Curry, who's got absolutely zero chance against Nikola Jokic. And that was something that Serbia seemed to figure out as they were gaming the matchups there late. I think the thing that jumped out at me the most on defense was that when Joel was off the floor, Jokic was just destroying Anthony Davis and Bam, like put AD in early foul trouble, neutralize his ability to have any real impact on the game. And that blew up what the US wanted to do in that matchup, which was to have one of the two bigs that they play in that backup group as a roamer, a guy behind him. You saw that a little bit with when they moved Joel off ball and LeBron was defending Jokic for some plays late. You could see they still wanted to do that. They liked that look just because it's not just about standing Jokic up, right? It's about stopping him from picking you apart as a passer. And so that's why you like having somebody back there near the rim so cutters can't take advantage. What Joel did was just turn the water off on Nikola Jokic. He struggled to get any kind of easy look against him, made a couple of tough shots. Like, he's a great player, right? Like, you give Jokic his credit for making some good plays, but by and large, could not move him in the post and missed basically all his, actually not basically, he missed all his threes yesterday. So that made it tough to do anything other than try to win in the post and play out of there and use his gifts down there. So that was where I thought Joel made the biggest impact defensively, is just saying, I can take this guy one-on-one, and if not take him out of the game, at least neutralize him to a level that they can't build out this lead, right? Like, the backups and the non-Jokic minutes yesterday, there were only a few, but they acquitted themselves well. And so you had to beat Serbia straight up with their best player on the floor, granted with an elite group of players for Team USA. But without Joel, I don't think they win that game because they had no answers for Jokic on the defensive end. And he was basically just by himself the guy who solved that problem.
Yeah, and I think Joe's getting a lot of credit for the 19 points, and they don't win the game without his offensive contributions as well, especially in the fourth quarter. But you're absolutely right. They don't win that game because they have no other way to really defend him. And Jokic is so tough that whenever you give him a mismatch and you're forced into a rotation, he's going to find it. He's elite at that. He's a basketball genius. And Joe was the only one that gave them a real chance. In a weird way, I almost felt like they switched a little bit too much, and they had to because Serbia was making almost literally every three they threw up in the first half. You can't give them an inch of space. But I was concerned about how much they were switching, not because Joe wasn't able to hold up against the guards, because the guards that were switching from Team USA onto Jokic had no chance against Jokic. And that's the only way they could get the Team USA in rotation. But he individually was fantastic defensively.
Is now where we bring up the Denver fans and the Jokic.
Kyle's been itching this entire time.
Out of control yesterday. It's now the time.
Well,
sure.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
Well, producer Tyler, I believe we have a Kevin Durant tweet from there we go. To all you Nuggets fans, nobody gives a, you guys can imagine what that word is, who y'all lames believe is the best player in the league. Players respect Jokic. We don't worship him like you do, but most of us are in awe of his brilliance. Trolling you cornballs for rooting against us is a part of the game. Deal with it. And Kevin Durant, for that, I would like to, for the third time today, say welcome to the resistance. Because I've been telling you about these people. I wish I had pulled up this tweet. I saw a Nuggets fan responding to a Lakers writer, I believe it was Anthony Irwin, I don't want to get it wrong though, saying that this is a Nuggets fan said that the Nuggets are the redheaded stepchild of the NBA. And I was like, finally, you guys get it. You can admit what I told you so many months ago that made you mad enough to yell at me for so long. And look, the one person I will defend yesterday, I saw our friend RK at DMVR was getting called some unsavory things. Now I disagreed with his stance that like, oh, this is why I'm rooting for Serbia and blah, blah, blah. But there are people taking it too far, trying to make it like a racism thing and all that. It's like, RK's good people. He's not rooting for Serbia for any reason other than being a deluded Denver fan. We'll say that. But it was nice to see, admittedly, a guy who's a bit weird. I say that as I'm a weirdo myself. It's nice to see one of the all-time great basketball players pick the same enemy as me, go directly at them in the same way as yesterday. It was great to see Joel in an environment where he was getting booed the whole game, every touch, the whole tournament. He's going to get more of it. Absolutely flambe Nikola Jokic yesterday. If you pull up the stats of when they were on the floor together, it was a bloodbath in favor of Joel Embiid, both from an individual and team perspective. So, to all you losers out there who are rooting for somebody other than Team USA, get the hell out.
Take that.
Take that from me and KD.
No, it was funny because just watch it. And look, you guys know, me and Kyle, this is the only disappointing part. Me and Kyle cannot argue about the Golden State stuff anymore because he's Team KD.
Kevin
So that's
Durant's
over
good in my book now. So now I have to begrudgingly say, you know what? Those fake titles that you won with Golden State, those are actually the most consequential titles in recent memory.
I have long been arguing that KD is the most normal superstar out of all the superstars. Ignore the fact that he is 6'10", 6'11", with the best shooting stroke in the history of the game, or one of the top 5. Don't want to get into that stupid argument.
He's 7-footer.
From the burner accounts to getting into it with fans on Twitter to going after Denver fans for being so tied in their bubble and tied into their superstars. It is truthfully a little bit wild how much of their own personal identity is tied into a player they have never met and their success that they have no influence in. It is, I agree with KD in that it's wild how that has developed. Meanwhile, in Philly, you've got writers calling Embiid classless after last night's performance. You've got us earlier this week talking about, we would love to see him in better shape. I give us a little bit of credit. Like, we at least try to hold the superstars accountable. In Denver, it's just like everything it's so much about their own personal identity. I just don't get it. It's so much about being right. And maybe they feel disrespected from years ago when maybe Jokic was underrated. You are a half decade away from Jokic being underrated. And yet everything is just about that team, that player getting that respect. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it went from, hey, if Jokic wins this game, it's one of the greatest wins in basketball history, to, oh, why do you care that Team USA won? It was like, well, you can't do it. No, either he's one of the all-time great players who, has a chance to beat another great team, or the game doesn't matter. You can't buy wolf tickets in the middle of the game, and then when the Grim Reaper comes for you at the end of the game, hide your hands. Oh, I didn't throw that stone at your glass house. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, what the hell are you talking about, man? So I got a lot of, I always get satisfaction out of trolling these miserable people because it's just, it's very funny to me to watch them pivot so quickly to go from this is the most consequential game in history to, well, who cares? He had all these guys that helped him. That part, watching people twist in the wind always brings me a little bit of joy. But it comes back to, I'm happy for Joel and I'm happy for Team USA because that's where I'm from. I'm cool seeing him represent this country. And again, I get supporting Nikola Jokic as a guy who plays for your favorite team. I'm sure as hell not rooting for somebody against America. Even like Noah Lyles, people kept bringing up that example yesterday. I didn't root against Noah Lyles in the 100, despite the fact that he was saying all this stuff about the NBA and world champ. It's like, at the end of the day, he's got USA across his chest, man. And he didn't say anything that was like inflammatory. It was just an opinion on the designation of world champion. It's the Olympics. Once the Olympics are over, I'll go right back to being, Mr. Skeptic, well, here's what we got to do to fix this country. Right now, drape that flag around my back like it's a fucking cape. That's all I'll say on the matter.
Well, I mean, we said it earlier. You guys started off. If Embiid was playing for Cameroon, you would hope that he plays well up until he plays against Team USA. It's very simple. And this has been the same way for as long as we've been following the Olympics and players and athletes participating for Team USA as a country as a whole. So, I mean, it's very simple. It's very easy. I don't get the other stuff. Sure, you can want them to play well, but when it comes down to it in the very end, it's about the country, and it's about the country alone. So that part. And then when it comes to the Twitter piece of it, Kevin Durant, I'm a Kevin Durant guy, so that doesn't surprise me. And I was laughing all the way to sleep last night, waking up this morning, seeing it. I saw, in the group text that we had, I didn't respond to it, but I saw it because it was funny as hell. And I was just sitting there laughing. But then I even saw another guy that's really popular on Twitter in the basketball space where he was getting roasted by so many people because he was doing the same thing. I even saw Bruce Brown. As we were on our way home, I happened to check Twitter right when I got home, and Bruce Brown, his former teammate, speaking about, man, Jokic is really the GOAT. He's really the best player in the world. He just lost, man. I mean, but he just lost. This is not the time for you to say that. Yes, he was phenomenal.
Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. MF.
He just lost, man. So, but yeah, it's a wild thing that goes on in the defense of Nikola Jokic, as if people don't understand his greatness. Derek, you just said here, we are 6 years removed from people questioning how good this guy is. Trading Nurkic and saying, do you guys know what you're doing? You trading Nurkic, who seems like he's a decent center. Is this guy going to be good enough behind him? He has since turned into a top 3 player in the NBA year after year after year after year. And it's not even a real discussion. It's just,
and there's nobody who discounts that anymore. Like that debate is so long. I don't understand why
3 MVP awards.
Yes, 3 of the last 4. And a title. Like, there's no one discounting Jokic at all.
No.
The only thing that annoys people about the Denver Nuggets are their fans. Like, and that's legitimately the only thing that people dislike about that city and that franchise. There's such a, I mean, I don't want to give, and I don't necessarily want to get Kyle going again, but like Kyle's comment from a long time ago about a little brother complex is so true. It's just, get over it. There's legitimately not a single player in the NBA where if they were playing on Team USA, I wouldn't give them props if they had a huge game. Not a single player in the NBA. I appreciate the sport. I appreciate playing for the country. And if you're so invested in A, your personal idol succeeding, and B, your opinion being right, that you cannot give props to a player on Team USA, you are part of the problem of the online discourse. It's wild.
And that's like, I mean, even yesterday, so Anthony Davis didn't have a good game, right? But in a few moments, he was able to make a few good plays. And that's like, great. I'll give you a round of applause, AD, for coming in your limited minutes while you're dealing with foul trouble, while you're having trouble with Jokic, getting an offensive rebound, getting a tip in, making some plays. Like if Jason Tatum had come in, I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I was born and raised to hate the Boston Celtics. I will die probably disliking the Boston Celtics. But if Jason Tatum had come in at some point during that game, great. Let's hope that he does something good to help.
Guess who we were calling for at the end of that first half? Jason Tatum.
That's the whole point of the Olympics. Right. It's like all these guys are coming together from different teams. And like, it's not like, so it's a little bit different for the the non-USA teams, right? Where a lot of these guys play year in, like every year, in all the FIBA World Cups, all this, where Team USA's team turns over quite a bit more. There's less built-in chemistry and all that, but they're all coming from their respective, whether it's club teams in Europe, whether it's NBA teams in the cases of Bogdanovic and Jokic. So like they're coming together just like Celtics and Sixers and Lakers and all that are coming together for Team USA. We put all that aside for this, few week stretch, and you just hope that Team USA comes out on top. And right now, they're in a good position to do so. And frankly, given who they got matched up with in the semifinal and the gold medal game, this is exactly why they recruited Joel so hard, right?
Yep.
He was massive in that game against Jokic. And now you're in the final, where one of the interesting things, I don't want to give away our preview, will be whether Gobert plays or not because of the Joel factor specifically. But this is what he was brought here to do. And so it's been great to see him do this. It's great to see my enemies suffer another humiliating defeat on it. Not just a national stage, an international defeat for my enemies is always it's a good place to be in, you know?
It's good to see that on the world stage. Good to see that on the world stage. All right, let's as you said, let's preview the next game against France. But before we do so, we do have to tell some people about our Die Hard program here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
Which one of us wants to do it, or are all of us going to talk about our wonderful Die Hard program? No. So, guys, you've heard about it from us quite a bit. The Die Hard program at allphly.com gets you quite a few things. Obviously, you already have access to our shows, our post-game content, what have you, but we have premium written content at allphly.com from myself, from if Tyler wants to bring the whole group back in, from people like Derek, Jim Salisbury. We got ZB on the Eagles beat. We got Charlie killing it with the fly. Charlie O'Connor.
He's a machine.
And if you watch
He's an absolute
hockey
machine.
or care about hockey, Charlie O'Connor is an absolute machine. I don't know how he does it. I would say I write a pretty good volume of content covering the Sixers when they're in season, especially. Charlie is a machine. So you get access to all that, all the written stuff that's behind the paywall. You also get merch for all the teams. You get a discount on it on top of getting a free shirt a year. There's a members only Discord we talk up a lot, the PHLY Lounge. I love being able to use the Discord to connect with you guys. Derek is very involved in it. Devon, when he feels like being on the internet once every blue moon or so, once a fortnight, we'll say, he gets in there too. But there's a lot of interaction between us that's all hours of the day, as the guys and girls who are in there will attest to. We also have a lot of great events. So I know the Phillies have an upcoming event at the Top Tomato, a watch party on August 29th. You can get $1 12-ounce cans there and $1 hot dogs at the Top Tomato for the Phillies watch party. I believe they're playing the Atlanta Braves, so that'll be a good one.
We don't like the Braves.
We don't like them whatsoever. So
no,
we love our Die Hard program. I know many of you do too. We had Val, who's in the chat all the time, finally just joined the Discord I believe it was last night, if I'm not misremembering.
And I think she's already said more than Devon has in our Discord.
That's correct. Yeah. That's correct.
It was great. It was great to see Val there. It's always nice to see some of the names we see in here every day joining that Discord and becoming an even bigger part of this growing community. So highly recommend to check it out. allphly.com.
Martian Lynch says our Die Hard program sounds like a cult family. Well,
I will never ask you to drink any Kool-Aid, Martian. I can promise you that.
It's a good cult. We're good. It's all good. Even when I show up every once in a fortnight, like Kyle mentioned here.
Horse dewormer, we might ask you to drink.
Okay. All right. You got it. So we'll go out to the Top Tomato.
Not asking you to drink anything except for something that's allowing you to choose chill. How about that?
For $1.
Unless you're not one of those people.
Yeah, just $1 at the Top Tomato for a nice beverage at the watch party, live show and watch party, as the Phillies take on the Braves. So that's all they'll ask you to drink. $1, some hot dogs, you're all good. A couple of super chats before we get to preview the game. Starting off with Shahid sending a super chat. Do you think Team USA should get Dorian Finney-Smith to shore up some rebounding, or is that just a Sixers problem? Shahid, thanks for the super chat.
So we were going to have to talk about this at some point, right? As it relates to Joel. That was one of the big complaints from all the whiners yesterday. He did not acquit himself well late in that game. I do think, as we were discussing it in studio, I think some of those were a direct result of playing LeBron on Jokic, having Joel off the ball. And then Joel was caught between trying to box out Jokic or tracking the ball, and he was not decisive there. And that was one area where I thought he was nowhere near as good as he needed to be late in the game. It was a bit of a mess for the whole group, though. So I would say I'm not going to put it all on him, but certainly is the biggest guy on the floor. It's at least a little bit on him.
And for Embiid specifically, since he does not have right now that lift, that get up off the floor like Adebayo or Davis would, playing again, coming to crash the boards, he has to be decisive of tracking that basketball, as you said, locating it, and not allowing it to be a volleyball drill out there with anybody else. It has to secure it with the two hands. We talk about two hands with the Sixers all the time. Snatch that rebound. We've seen him do it before, but with the lack of explosiveness off the floor right now, he has to secure that basketball with two hands and not play a tip drill and allow others to come in and pry that ball loose and get that rebound.
That being said, and look, I agree with both of you. I think we said it in one of the previous pods that when he's tired, rebounding where it shows up the most. That being said, like when you're playing against Jokic, who A, can shoot from the perimeter, and B, is such an incredible passer, and Joel Embiid is forced to play up on him, you need a lot of help from the guys behind you. So I do think, like, is Embiid maybe the biggest factor in that rebounding struggle? Yes, but I think it was a team failure as well.
Absolutely. Brian Pumper, American Nuggets fans who rooted for Serbia need to face the, quote, blood eagle, end quote. I want to vomit. That's Brian Pumper talking about the American Nuggets fans.
That sounds like a offshoot of a I don't even want to refer to what I'm thinking of. But it does not sound good. It sounds like a group of people I do not want to be affiliated with. I will say that,
it sounds a little bit harsh. It sounds a little harsh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit, but
yeah.
I'm not rolling with you quite that way, Brian. I'll say certainly I was not supportive of anybody who's from the States that's rooting for Serbia.
According to Tyler, we do not want to know what that means. So let's just move on.
We will move on. Thank you, Brian, for your contribution to the show today.
I love the photo, his profile photo of the guy with the ticket. Remember him? The license and all that from a couple of months ago. That always makes me laugh.
Eugene said, look that up on incognito mode.
Quinn Davis jumps in with a big super chat. We appreciate it, Quinn. Any thoughts on, I think you guys mentioned this a little bit earlier, on an Inquirer sending a non-basketball reporter to Paris so he can write multiple pieces dumping on Embiid and call him classless for dancing?
Look, here's what I'll say. And first of all, I like Mike. And I think calling him a non-basketball, Mike Sealski. Sealski. The Inquirer could send Sealski. I think Mike's a really good writer. I don't think classifying him as a non-basketball reporter is fair because you don't send a basketball reporter over to the Olympics. He is a features writer, and he's a very good one at that. I very much disagree with his take out of last night's game and with that paragraph specifically, where he said that I don't think he called Embiid classless, but that the act was classless. It's a minor distinction, but I think it's probably worth pointing out. I don't agree with that assessment either way. And I think it was, quite frankly, a mistake to print it. I don't think that was a story that should have come out of last night's game.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sending him, I'm with Derek, and that Mike is a multi-sport, columnist, and that's why you send him somewhere to, like, the Olympics,
cover multiple sports.
Yes. Yeah, to not just cover Joel Embiid, but to cover pole vaulting or whatever else. So, absolutely, the right sort of person to be there. And again, I don't agree with what he said or wrote, and Mike and I are apart on the Joel stuff at the Olympics, but I am certainly not going as far as to why is he there? And Mike covers the Sixers plenty, is at lots of games, practices, whatnot. He's not one of those that people we've discussed on the show, shall we say, that shows up and then leaves before the game starts. Like he's there to write and talk about what he sees and write his opinion. And that doesn't mean he's going to match my opinion. We'll put it that way. But I will say, no qualms with what Mike has done while over in Paris.
Yeah. For sure. And I will say, look, I disagree very strongly with that paragraph. Like I said, he's written some really good human interest stories on a bunch of the other sports as well. I would honestly recommend going and check out some of his stories. He's a really good features writer. That was a miss. I think that was a miss.
I agree. Well, the only thing whenever something like this happens with Embiid, when he does the things that people want to call classes, is because you anticipate them calling him classless. And I don't want to read about that because I don't have a problem with him doing it. If I have conversations with people about it, I disagree because I'm like, he's out there having fun. I don't care. That stuff I don't care about. There are plenty of things that he may do that I will say I disagree with him doing this such thing, but this is not one of them. And the only reason why I would sit back and say I wish he didn't do it is because I don't want to hear that side of it, of people complaining about him doing just that, or saying a certain thing in his press conference where people don't like it. And well, you ask people to have personality, he has personality, now you're criticizing his personality and showing who he is and being involved in the game and engaged in everything that's going on. I don't have a problem with it at all. And I do like Mike, by the way. I just disagree.
The chop is just something he has been doing for years. The fact that he did one in one of the biggest games of his life at a huge stage to help them win the game, that's just not the story. It shouldn't have been made the story. I disagree with him very strongly.
Wow, we have actual NBA breaking news. And
that being said, he's written some great stuff out there. Like, I want to give him
Svi Mykhailiuk, 4-year, $15 million deal with the Utah Jazz.
How much of that is guaranteed?
You know what they said? We locked in Markkanen. We need more white shooters.
Need more white shooters. Surround them with the white shooters.
Get as many as we can get. I was almost about to make an off-color joke and then remembered that I value my employment. So back to the subject at hand. Yeah, listen, part of the reason that I like Joel and that I think people gravitate toward him is because he shows his personality. That comes back to bite him in certain ways when people feel like he's crossed the line and they can use it for their agendas that they're pushing, whatever. You guys have to remember, Joel got to the Olympics and people were yelling at him like, give back your passport, like all this kind of, it's like, if he's going to give it back to people because of that, I think they've put themselves in a position where if you're going to talk trash to him the second he sets foot in the country and boo him the entire time he's there, I have absolutely no issue with Joel sticking it to them a little bit. And his best way to do so, by the way, I don't know if you guys actually know this, every medal given away at the Olympics has a piece of the Eiffel Tower in it.
Yeah,
so if Joel Embiid wins a gold medal, he will literally take a part of the Eiffel Tower with him home. That's the best way he can stick it to these sorry SOBs over in France. So
that's all right. Eiffel Tower is overrated anyway.
Let's pivot into our discussion of the gold medal game.
I also like the fact that his best friend now when he does these things is Anthony Edwards. As much as we like Anthony Edwards on this show, it's fun to see him where he's just waiting at the end of the game to do the chop with Joel. Remember the one play on the baseline where he did the chop and Snoop and Asia Wilson were behind him?
Yeah.
He was monitoring to the bench because that's he and Anthony Edwards just bonding over that funny chop.
And you and Shahid are on the same.
Anthony Edwards. Oh, is he? Okay.
Shahid's on the same page. He says exporting the legacy of DX to the world is a good thing. The haters can suck it. So that connection between the young star and Ant Edwards and Joel Embiid has been great.
Man. And look, as someone who like just a week ago said suck it Neubeck on this show, it would be hypocritical of me to really get on him too much.
On our great Jeopardy show last week, a week ago today. Yes, absolutely. Speaking of Anthony Edwards, guys, as we get ready to preview Team USA versus France, he's been playing pretty well this entire tournament, and he did not do so yesterday. We were calling for Jason Tatum because Anthony Edwards did not play well. He's one of the guys that I'd expect to have a much better performance coming off the bench this time around because going for the gold, again, while he played in the Western Conference, he's never been in the NBA Finals. This is another spot for him, just like Embiid, to be in a big position where he has to help the team, and I'd imagine that he wants to play so much better than he did in Thursday's game.
Yeah, so, I mean, first place I'm looking is what I teased earlier, and that's will France go back to Rudy Gobert after they have basically buried him the last couple of games. I think he played only a few minutes last game for some end of game purposes, but by and large, France has taken off by moving him to the bench and spreading the floor and having Wemby be one of the featured guys. Now, one of their problems has been that Wemby offensively has been kind of a mess. I believe he shot 4 for 17 in their game the other day that they were still able to win. But defensively, he's been the guy we saw in his rookie year that is a game-changing type of player. And the onus is going to be on whether it's Joel or one of these other bigs to really make him work on that end of the floor. And probably specifically Joel, try to get him into foul trouble, has a 70-point game under his belt against this kid already. And that works both ways, right? Like Joel has a physical advantage over him, but Wemby will come out ultra motivated for this game. It is a final in his home country, and the whole arena will most likely be in support of their countrymen. And so that environment's going to be crazy. And look, there's no way of knowing, as much as Joel played great in that game, we could come in Saturday and Joel could start slow, and this could turn into a Bam Adebayo or an Anthony Davis type game. Maybe it's, as you said, maybe Anthony Edwards bounces back. Maybe Jason Tatum comes in after not playing. And I know there's been a lot of crying about it from people in Boston, including some Celtics fans that are saying they're actively rooting for France now because Tatum isn't playing, which is, put them in the same category as these Jokic wackos. But I'm very curious to see what happens and, how much of an impact Wemby is able to make. I suspect they should be able to take up enough advantage of the other matchup problems that one guy should not be the difference maker in the game. But watch out for French Draymond, I guess.
Yeah, and one other thing with Wemby dragging Embiid out to the perimeter, unlike with the Sixers where it feels like they have a bad perimeter defender at every spot, outside of Curry, the Team USA should be able to handle their one-on-one matchup. So pulling Embiid out of the paint doesn't have quite as much of a negative impact on the overall team defense as long as Curry doesn't get completely roasted. So I think Embiid should be able to acquit himself relatively well. And obviously he's got a 70 spot against Wemby and a 50 spot against Rudy. So, he should be able to score if his shot is there.
Yeah, and just make sure he doesn't make it a personal thing. Keep playing the way that we saw him play these last two games, where he's team oriented. But when he sees his spots and he picks those spots, he can get what he wants to. And sure, defensively they're going to pull him away from the basket. Wembanyama is an alien, which they call him for a reason. He can put the ball on the floor just like a guard. But Embiid moves pretty well, especially when he gets into it and is up for these challenges like this one. So on his home floor in his home country for Wembanyama, Joel Embiid is going to be jazzed up for this one, man, to make sure that he tries to shut that kid down as much as possible. Whatever film they watch and see what happens, cause him to shoot 4 for 17. He's going to try to make sure that that kid goes out there and duplicates that same type of performance and come home with the gold. And as Gene said, as far as the people, Boston Celtics fans rooting against Team USA, well, first of all, you do realize that Jason Tatum would not have a gold medal. That's one. And number two, as Gene pointed out, deport all of them. Deport them all. We don't like them anyway, so just deport them all.
I'm going to stop short of asking for people to get deported. We're not turning into that.
Funny is funny, but no, we're not deporting them all. Funny is funny.
That might be one, Devon, that you could get away with. It's not one that if, me looking like me is calling for people to be deported, I don't think that's going to be received the same way. So I'm drawing the line at calling for that.
Funny joke.
They put them in the shame zone. I don't know where
shame zone.
If we can designate an area for, or they can do the walk from Game of Thrones where they're ringing the bell down the steps and all that. We'll do that for all these bozos rooting against Team USA.
Yeah, should be a fun one. They're going to need a lot of help, but hey, we'll see. We'll see how they get it done. Curry was phenomenal. I know we bashed him a lot for his defense, but man, he still hit some big shots there.
I mean, really, I just bashed him a lot for his defense.
No, but we were right there with you.
Started, he couldn't miss a shot. Like when you started criticizing him, he went off.
Yeah, many are saying it was all my criticism that motivated Steph to play his greatest Olympic game ever.
Yeah, well, he was phenomenal, man. Great game. Kevin Durant, we talked about him, his big shot. LeBron James played really well. Decided to really turn it up. I didn't really see it. I saw it in the moment, but I didn't see what happened is why he was barking at Bogdanovich the way that he was. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it seemed like after that he really, really got into it with Bogdanovich, and a lot of people were coming after him, and he was devastated. Bogdanovich was, of course, how things eventually turned out, and things not going the way that he needed. So yeah, Kyle, yell at Steph Curry some more so he can knock down 30 points plus one more time to help them bring home the gold medal.
Well, listen, and to your point, a few quick ones before we get out of here. Great LeBron game, triple-double, and had some monster plays. down the stretch. That reverse layup, some plays in transition were great. Steph was great. I thought, Devin Booker, I was most skeptical, I think, of him coming into the Olympics based on what we'd seen. I didn't think he was good in that exhibition slate at all. And I do think he's figured out his place within this group. Here's one of the big storylines for me coming into the gold medal game. Do you think Kevin Durant might start? Because I think he was elevated into the closing group and has been one of their best, most impactful players throughout the tournament. But Steve Kerr has liked having Drew Holiday in that role as that kind of do-it-all defensive type guy. And then when push came to shove, it was like, get this guy out of here and give me Kevin Durant, who hit basically the game-deciding shot on that 20-foot jumper on the possession that I thought was terrible right until the time the ball went through the net, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's not like the starting unit has been getting out the good starts. So I think it would, you can make the case. My guess is Kerr would probably be hesitant to change something in the gold medal game, but you never know, especially because it's not like Kevin Durant's not getting his minutes. It just, is that starting unit working well enough offensively? And I think the answer clearly to this point has been no, but maybe with Embiid maybe finding his stride, I could see it going either way.
Yep. All right. Prophet One says, are you Kings on tomorrow? Well, unless Joel Embiid breaks a single Team USA single game scoring record of 40 or 37 or whatever it was, Kevin, I think it was Carmelo Anthony or Kevin Durant, one of those two had.
Wasn't it Carmelo against Nigeria in
is
the
that
one
when he,
Olympics?
that
Was,
when
I know
had,
he said it. I don't know if Kevin Durant has passed it since.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the one where he scored all those points in like 15 minutes? Where he scored 30 plus in 15 minutes.
He scored 37 points on 13 of 16 shooting against Nigeria in 2012.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, unless Embiid breaks the record, I doubt that we're back tomorrow. We'll be back with you guys on Monday at 3:00. So, but we appreciate it, though. We appreciate it. Thanks for everybody for checking in. Give out our roll call here as we wind things down.
Yeah,
here
baby.
On this Friday. Been a fun week.
Got to say thank you and salutations to so many of you today, including Martian Lynch, the #1 trash talker in all of PHLY.
What up, Mark?
There we go. There's a roll call graphic for all our homies out there today. So thank you to Martian. Thank you to AA Ron. Useful title.
What up, Aaron?
I don't know if I've seen that one before. Hello, useful title. Nice to be here.
Title. It's a good one.
Edvard is in here. My girl Winona is in here. I wonder if she's still in Florida hanging out with mom. Hope you're having a good time regardless where you're at. Winona, Flyers in 7, Dave Dewar, Phi Chi, Money Mar, AC Philla.
What up, AC Philla?
Al, the 2-minute warning in the
building. What up, Al?
We got Mr. Sandman. We got Vincent, but not our Vincent. Another
What up,
Vincent.
Vinny? What's going on, Vinny?
Hello to this Vincent. Hello to Darkness. Who wanted to make me the 51st.
Dark outside right now, man.
It's dark outside. Really. He wanted to make me the 51st star on the American flag, I believe he said earlier after my
also wanted to have you get a gold medal. Thought you were worthy of a gold medal.
No.
So there you go.
No, I am not anywhere near that level. So save it for the actual gold medalist. Wow. Ziggy Marley in the chat today. A reggae legend in the building.
What up,
Thank
Zig?
God for that. Eugene Ross, as always, in the building. Prophet One, as you mentioned, we had our super chatters today. So that was, who was in here? I think Shahid. Brian Pumper. Who had the question about our colleague Mike? I'm blanking right now.
Yes, that was.
I wish I remember. Maybe Tyler can.
$10 donation too.
Thank you for that one. Thank you to Brian Knight. Thank you to everybody who's been in here today. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And if you hit the thumbs up button, it'll give Team USA just a little more juice going into that gold medal game. Thank you to Tyler for producing. We'll see you Monday.
See ya.